Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another video, and welcome my new project car. This is my 2002 Honda Civic Type R, and as you can see, it's a complete piece of So you're probably wondering why. To be honest, I'm not sure I figured that out yet. But the story is, this car came into Joel, who you'll meet in the next video, for a K20 swap. So we were going to take the engine out, gearbox, loom, and put it into another car. But the person who bought this car backed out of that project, and I then kind of floated the idea of buying it off of him. And I managed to get the car for really good money. I don't want to say yet, but I managed to get, decent money. And the original plan was to kind of take over the K20 project and continue it myself. However, I changed my mind because an EP3 is something I've wanted to own for a while. It's on my bucket list of cars to own. And I just saw this as an opportunity to try and revive something from the dead, because if we were to continue with the K20 project, this shell was going to the scrap. And it is bad, but I thought, you know what, let's see if we can bring it back. So I'll do a quick walk around and show you all of the bad bits, including the interior, which is one of the worst I've seen, and give you a real idea of the project that I've decided to undertake. And I'll be honest guys, I am a little bit nervous. The plan is to keep the car looking like this. So we're not going to do anything to the exterior, so no cosmetic changes, apart from maybe the facelift bumper. We might do that. That'll be about it. But all of the discoloration that you can see going on will remain as is, and it will just be a bit of a funny beater slash kind of road car where everything on the outside looks awful, but the engine bay and the interior, etc., is all pristine. So that's my initial thoughts anyway. And yeah, I just didn't want to see it go to the scrapyard, it seemed like a waste. So let me do a quick walk around. So here it is. As you can see, it's a 2002 EP3 Type R, pre-facelift of course. I actually prefer these. I don't like the rear lights on the later cars. That's just my personal preference. The colour is Milano red, or some parts of it are, so hopefully the camera picks this up, but the side panels are a completely different shade of red to the rear bumper, and I'm not even sure that the spoiler could be classed as red anymore. But you'll notice there's a lot of grime on the car as well. And that's because it was sat for quite some time. I'm not sure how long exactly, but that would explain why all the brakes are seized, etc. And also why it was bought as a donor car, because I suppose nobody thought of trying to revive it. But the wheels aren't terrible. The center caps have faded, and hopefully you can see the disc and the caliper there in terms of how bad they look. I don't know whether to keep these wheels. I might try and just give them a clean up, see what they look like, and go from there, or I might refurb them, or maybe put on a completely different set. But there is some rust in the usual places. Underneath is quite bad. We'll show you that in the next video and talk about what we plan to do with the underneath of the car as well. There's moss growing here, which is nice. Front wheel, similar story. Similarly with the discs as well and the calipers. And there are multiple scrapes all over the car, but there's only one dent, which is here, which is on the door. If we work around the front rather. Holes in the front bumper, obviously to help with cool air, but not sure they're my cup of tea. So as I mentioned, I may try and fit the facelift bumper to this if I can. Looks like that headlight's been replaced at some point. That one is definitely a different headlight. That has like a kind of grey tint to it, whereas that one doesn't. Either that one's really old and that's brand new, or that's just a different headlight. But we'll address those as well. All of the moss on the grille. Now under here is not too good. So I already have a new manifold. Rocker cover needs repainting, which I'll do. Timing chain needs doing, it needs a new alternator, it needs a new clutch and diff. So I'll probably, we'll probably drop the engine out, and when we do that, I'll then try and clean up this engine bay as much as I can, because it is not looking too good under here. Got this intake. Strange positioning of the intake. I understand that the extra length is meant to help with an increase in power, but seems odd considering that's right next to the exhaust manifold, but there you go. Working around to this side, it's not really much better, to be honest. The wheels are the same. We've got this super sexy window stripe or sun stripe or whatever it's meant to be. I mean, body wise it's not terrible until you see that. So we've got another scrape down here, and if this seems a bit odd in terms of how I'm walking around this car, I should probably clarify at this point that this is the first time I have seen the car in daylight. I agreed to buy this without seeing it in the daylight, which is, I feel, the cardinal rule you should never do, but you know, sometimes you just got to jump into these things. There is another dent here as well on the boot lid, and are we missing the rear wiper, or is that, surely that's missing and it's not meant to be like that, or rear wiper delete. Looks like someone's just ripped it off. It does have an aftermarket exhaust. Pretty sure there are some holes in the exhaust because it doesn't sound too good when it's started. We are limited to how much we can start it at the moment because I don't want anything to go, or anything else to go wrong with it. So yeah, it definitely needs some TLC. Now if we look inside, because I really wasn't lying, here's the interior. So I guess the first thing to address is the mould. It's quite bad. That seat's worse. Looks like something died on that seat. The rear seats are not terrible, but there is definitely some stuff going on back there. Steering wheel has tape on it, so that needs replacing, and the mould pretty much continues all throughout the dash. The head unit is awful. I don't know who fit that, but they did a terrible job. I'm gonna probably replace that with just like an OEM head unit. I don't really care too much about stereo. I might even just do like a stereo delete instead. But I have somebody coming out. I mean, that seatbelt is special. Damn. So I have someone coming out later in January to try and revive this. We're going to do a whole video about it where we essentially try and clean it up and get it back to as fresh as it can be. So if you manage to see this, James, this gives you an idea of exactly what you're undertaking. But it's still quite cool in there though, I think. If you can see past the mould, it's actually a very cool car. And yeah, bonnet catch is broken. But you know what? It's better than it going to the scrapyard. And I'm actually quite excited to see if we can do it, if we can get it back. So there you have it, guys. Here is the new project car. I just jumped into this. As I mentioned, an EP3 is something I've wanted to own for a long time, and this seemed like a good opportunity to go into one for good money. Now, some of you will probably comment this, but I am aware that some money needs to be spent in order to get this back on the road in a decent working condition. And we're going to bring you along on that journey. So the next video I make about this car will be us taking it into the workshop, having a look underneath and trying to assess the full extent of exactly what it is that I've taken on and where we need to start and things we need to prioritize, etc. And I'm going to be as upfront and transparent about that as I can along the way. But I'm excited. It's good to be back in a Honda. A long time ago, before I made YouTube videos, I owned Civics. I had some EGs and EKs and I always loved them. So it's nice to finally have another. I never owned an EP3. This was always a car I wanted but couldn't quite afford. So I'm glad that I finally have one, but I am a bit nervous. So yeah, we'll see. But there it is. This video is just an intro. I'm gonna try and make as much content about this car as I can. This car was very much bought as a channel project. So yeah, this is the start. So let me know in the comments what you think of it. Have I made a mistake? Anything you could recommend in terms of parts, etc. As I said, I do have some parts already, but anything else you can recommend, I'm all ears. And until the next one, peace.